Welcome back, everyone, to episode 50 of the Minot Business Podcast, presented by Bennett Creative Media. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, and on the show today, we have one of my dear friends, Mason Kramer. Mason, how is it going today?
Good. I'm doing good.
That's what I like to hear. Before we get into the questions, if you have not already, please rate and review the show. If you could take 5 seconds to leave us a rating and review, it really helps spread the word to new audiences and attract new guests for you guys each week. And I really appreciate that support. So let's dive right into it, Mason. Good to have you on the show. For people that don't know who Mason is, what is your elevator pitch?
I'm a photography teacher and photographer in Minot that shoots for Minot High and kind of a freelance guy really, and then for Minot High.
Okay, so we're going to dive into the whole business aspect of things. We're also going to go into the teaching side of things, and really what I want to dive into first is what was that first point? When did you decide to delve into the whole photography world?
When I was in high school, I was like into photography and, I don't know, I always just had a camera around and shot stuff. My mom always took pictures and I liked like looking at family photo albums and stuff like that. So,
that's kind of what I was wondering, because I talked to a lot of photographers and it's always an interesting story of how that photographer got into it. Because personally, I didn't know anything about cameras or photography or videography in high school. I was just like, oh, it's just a photography elective, right? But you knew early on that you were kind of into the photography world?
Well, I didn't think about it this as deep as I've gotten into it.
Okay.
I went to Bishop Ryan, and then I took one class at Minot High, and that was photography.
Okay.
So it's like weird. I teach in that room now, and like the kids always ask, when I bring it up and stuff. And Mickey Borkus is my teacher, and I teach with her now. And so that was the one class I took outside of Ryan. And then I went on to college, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I went to St. Cloud pretty much. Just decided to be a football guy. Like I didn't know, but I knew I wanted to do something creative. So I went into art, and I took like just fine arts classes there and some electives and stuff, and it was good. But then when I came back to Minot, I initially wanted to be going to photography at Minot State, and one of my professors who I love the guy and he's a great guy, but advised me against photography.
Really?
Like, he was like, don't do photography. He's like, you won't make any money.
Was he the photographer, like the photography, what's the word in college? Not
teacher,
professor. Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
He wasn't, but he did some like graphic design type stuff. And I don't know. It wasn't like a thing, that like don't do photography. It was just he wanted me to go into graphic design. So I picked up graphic design. Yeah. So I picked up graphic design, and I liked graphic design. I still do, but the photography classes were my favorite classes. Every one I could take, I took, and I ended up dropping graphic design too, obviously. And I was coaching football and baseball and stuff, and decided to go into art education. So kind of all within art the whole time. And I ended up getting an art education degree and becoming a teacher.
What was that pivoting moment? Like, was it just that the teacher would be more so of a, sustainable, you can fall back on being a teacher and in case the freelance graphic design thing didn't work, or what was the thought process there?
Yeah, I think teaching, I had this like in my mind that I wasn't going to be able to afford like art supplies and stuff. So I was like, I'll become a teacher and I'll just paint in the classrooms and do like, they'll have the stuff I need.
Yeah.
So, and when I student taught with Mickey Borkus too. And she was doing all ceramic stuff. So I'm like on the wheel all day and stuff. And
really,
I liked that, but what I really wanted like down across the school was the photography room. And like every chance I could get in there when I was student teaching, that's where I wanted to be. So,
okay. So when you were in college, then how many photography classes were you taking? Was it a lot?
No, they offered a handful, but I took, digital photography, traditional photography. So in traditional photography, that was, we talked about like a kind of a pivotal point. Traditional photography was, I loved that class.
So what do you mean by traditional?
It was just film. So like I had a
like in a dark room
camera. Yeah. So I'd find myself like spending hours in a dark room. But I don't know. I don't know if it was the style of the class. Ryan Stander was the professor, and he would just like give me 2 rolls of film and see you next week.
Yeah.
And in college, that's like awesome when that you like to shoot photos. So
Yeah.
I would go around town, and shoot.
Okay, cool. So I don't have any experience in like traditional photography with actual dark rooms and real film now that it's all digital.
Yeah.
So once you graduated college, you went into teaching. Was your first teaching job photography at Minot High, that graphic design class, or how did that shape out?
Yeah. There was a yearbook teacher at Minot High who was, her last year, my first year.
Okay.
So I kind of took over the yearbook stuff and graphic design stuff. And then there were so many kids starting to take photography at Minot High that there was like more opportunities for me to teach that. And I just,
because they're
started
two
teaching
separate classes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's yearbook. Is yearbook and graphic design kind of mushed together? Because I didn't take any of these classes, which now being in the creative field, I wish I had. I was taking accounting and entrepreneurship.
Well,
but
that stuff paid off too.
It helps, but it would have been cool to take like the photography class.
Yeah. So it depends how many kids sign up for it.
Okay.
They've been like, there's a photography 1, 2, and 3, but not enough kids usually sign up for 3.
Mm-hmm.
So they are kind of pushing those like photography 3 and some of the graphic design kids towards yearbook.
Okay.
Because we have to make a yearbook.
Yeah.
You don't have to have photography 3.
That's true.
So,
okay. So then you obviously have Mason Kramer. Is it Mason Kramer Photo or Mason Kramer Photography?
Photography, but social media, I sometimes will just have like photo on there. Like Instagram and Facebook are just photo. So
when did this freelance side business start compared to the timeline of your teaching the photography and yearbook classes? Was it after, same time? What did that look like?
Kind of the same time. I started shooting that first year when I took over yearbook. I would go to like a football game and take photos, and and I didn't really, I mean, I had shot all sorts of stuff, but never like sports or, but I like always, I coached and played sports. And, so I always was interested in that. But when I started having to shoot events for yearbook, that, I don't know, that like journalistic style, like I started to really like, and yeah.
So was there a pivotal moment where you're like, I want to start making money from this on the side, or was it always just a passion thing where you just wanted to go out there and shoot?
I would say mostly a passion thing. One thing is the other photography teacher at Minot High at the time, he had a 70-200 2.8 lens that I knew was expensive. I didn't have anything like that. And he kept offering, you want to use it? You want to use it? You're shooting more stuff than me. And I was like, no, I'm going to break it. And then I'll be like,
I'm going to owe you.
Yeah. I'm started teaching broke and I'm only 3 months into this or whatever. I'm not, And finally, I took him up on it, and it was for, I think, a band concert or something. And I think within like 48 hours, I'm like trying to budget out on BH.
How can I get a 7200
photo? Yeah, I'm like, I need a new camera, lenses.
Okay.
So it was kind of a game changer seeing that lens work.
Was that Swenson?
Yeah.
Was? Okay. Because I was going to say, I was trying to think of his name the whole time, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we all have that point where, especially in the photo video world, where you experience a new piece of equipment and it's like, oh my gosh, how can I get this? Because for the people that don't know, photo and video world is not the cheapest industry to get in. So as far as the teaching side, we'll kind of get into the photo side down the road a little bit, but as far as the teaching side goes, do you think it makes your teaching easier since you are passionate about photography and this whole aspect? Easier to teach these kids about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I can tell, when we're making schedules and stuff for the next year, like I get bummed when I see like, oh, I'm going to have to teach this class or whatever. And I don't have like, I like the other art classes, but ideally I could teach photo all day. And like, I love walking around the room and kids are editing stuff, and I don't know. It's easy.
What do you like about sharing that with these students? Is it just kind of showing them the art of photography, or what's probably your favorite part about that?
Yeah, I think that, but also because I shoot so much Minot High stuff, like a lot of the examples and stuff are, kids are like pulling out their phones, like Snapchatting their buddy, like their buddy's an example from the football game or the student section or whatever. And just being a part of the community, and, kids get excited about being in the yearbook and being on the photography example slides and stuff. And
do you intentionally tie those two together? You're shooting a lot of them on a high sporting events and that thing, and then you bring that into the classroom?
yeah, I think being at the school is like the best benefit I have in being a freelance. And,
Yeah.
Kids are in and out of my room asking me about senior photos or what game I'm shooting this week.
Okay. So then now I want to pivot a little bit into obviously teaching and running a photography business, two different disciplines. How do you manage that? What are the differences of, okay, I'm going in to teach these kids, and okay, now I have to figure out how to run this business on the side?
Yeah, I think there's challenges that come with that. When like some of my clients are like the students or their families, and kids will come in and be like, they see a picture like on my Instagram or something, and they'll be like, how do I get this one?
Yeah.
Dude, it's on the website. It's $5. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm like arguing with kids, sometimes about, sometimes I'll send a kid a photo if it's like a something Derek to set breaking the school record for points and stuff. Like just send him the photo. And
okay.
But yeah, it helps my freelance and my business.
Yeah, the teaching aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the teaching goes, then it's obviously you got to be learning stuff while you're teaching. Have your students taught you anything where you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that when you're teaching?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. There's so many examples I can't even like think of obvious ones.
Yep.
But like when Oscar was in school,
okay,
he started shooting, and within 2 months, I was like, oh, this kid's better than me. Like,
yeah,
like some of the kids are so talented and, creative and experiment with stuff, and it works. And then I learn something and I try it. And
so with Oscar, it's like the student has now become the master.
Yeah, it didn't take long.
Yeah, and honestly, he's awesome because isn't he at some college now?
Yeah, he's shooting at Alabama.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah,
just shooting Alabama football games.
Yeah, sweet.
So, what do you think the importance of the exposure to the arts is for these students? Because, like I said before, I wasn't exposed to a ton of this. I took like ceramics 1 at Central, and I think I made this pot, but I didn't have a huge exposure to the art side. Do you think it opens doors to kind of show them that there are career paths in the arts, whereas some people might say don't go into the arts because there's no money in it?
Yeah, I tell kids all the time that, there's super talented kids in my classes, and I ask them what they're going to do. And most of the time it's, I don't know. I'm like, well,
yeah,
go to school for art or start being a freelance, something, make photos, videos, whatever you want to do, start making it and get better at it. And people will probably start paying you for it. So
is that how it started for you? Did you kind of just start doing it and then people started paying, or did you go into it thinking, I think I can make money with this? Or is it just, hey, I'm taking photos, and then some people came up and they're like, hey, shoot my family pictures or shoot this sporting event?
A little bit of both. I would go, I'm on like a contract for yearbook, and then I would go cover stuff to make sure we had coverage for the yearbook. And then somebody would like reach out and say, hey, can you make sure you get to like senior night, or we'll pay you to do an extra game or something. And then, I started building a website and putting prices on it and stuff.
Yeah.
But it started with me just shooting stuff for school and for fun, and then people seeing work and reaching out. So
it stemmed from that passion, and then you're like, man, people are reaching out and they're like, well, they'll pay me to do this. So that's when you kind of figured out I need a website.
Yeah, and even now I'm like, the passion of shooting and doing photo is still number one.
Isn't it weird that you can just get paid to do something you do for free?
Yeah, that's I still do stuff for free, and the passion of photography, like doing that, is I just like going out on a Friday night football game atmosphere. It's awesome.
So I want to pivot it again into the not specific niche you go into, because I think you do families and seniors and kind of everything, but I think you like to focus on sports. Am I correct?
Yeah, I like the sports probably the most. And I'll shoot pretty much everything, but I definitely like doing the sports, and I would like to do some more artistic stuff and try stuff with studio lights and different, but I'm just so busy all the time, and make
hard to make
excuses.
time for that.
Yeah. I don't know.
So you're in the sports industry. Do you think that's because you grew up playing sports and it just kind of was a natural fit?
I think so. I think it helps to kind of know what the sport that you're shooting when you're shooting it.
That's what I was going to ask, because you're out there shooting, swimming and all these different things that you might not really know about. Did you have to learn those?
Yeah, like I'm not going to say I'm an expert in swimming or diving but I just ask questions. Like I'll just ask whoever's standing there. What's that?
Yeah.
When he puts his arm up, what's that mean? Or what's so I've definitely learned. I'm been to all different types of sports now. Everything from football to dance, cheer, everything.
Do you have a favorite? Is it football?
No.
Because you grew up playing football and you went to college for football, right?
Football has always been like my favorite sport, but shooting it, I don't know. Maybe I like hockey, I think. Yeah. And basketball. They're it's constant and it's a little bit tighter in there. So
I suppose football might be kind of hard because it's one play every 30 seconds. Okay.
And if guy gets tackled in between, like in the D line or whatever, it's like boring. Not a lot of good shots.
25 people. And it's like, okay, cool shot.
Yeah. Where hockey and basketball are like fast paced and there's always action.
And I think it's sweet when, like, even hockey, if you get, a D-man taking a slap shot, that's a solo shot generally. Yeah. Basketball player, if Derek Cassette hits a 3 or something, those are cool as like solo images. Yep. As far as how you approach shooting, a live sporting event, is there a process that you go through? Like, hey, I need to get these, staple shots, and then you go creative after that for different angles? Or what's your approach to shooting, a live event?
For me, I think my approach is that I'm going to try to get one shot that stands out. Okay. Like the shot of the night type thing. And I shoot all night then. So then I have like 200 images or 1,000 images to go through, but I narrow that down to 100 or whatever. Okay. But I'm looking for that one cool dunk, the one big hit in the hockey game, whatever. Yeah. And you get all the others along the way.
So how do you have any tips and strategies to make sure you get that moment? Is it always just being ready?
Yeah. Always shooting. Like one thing I always tell kids at school is to continue to shoot, like after the play. A guy scores a goal, like, continue to shoot. Don't stop, because you never know, the celebration might be the best part. Yeah. The dunk and the flex might be the best part. So when I was first shooting, the big play would happen and I'd take the shot of the big play and be like, oh, that was cool.
Put your camera down.
That's now he's celebrating. That's the best part.
You just missed the cartwheel it just did across the middle of the court.
So keep shooting, always be ready to shoot. And then put yourself in positions where, like, when I get to an event, I'm looking for like a clean background where I can be at an angle where, I'm thinking this person scores a lot of goals from this spot, this person, find a background that might look good with that.
So do you kind of have to do research on these sports then to kind of figure out those moments?
A little bit.
Or do you just have a general idea from going to them?
General idea from going, just talking to people and showing up to the venue early. Okay. Looking around, stuff like that.
I suppose you don't want like some weird construction pole behind.
Yeah. And sometimes you get that and it is
blur out the background. Yeah. So shooting live events, it's got to be, I know I've shot a couple photo wise way back in my heyday. But there's got to be some tips and tricks to get these moments captured, because it's very fast paced, high intensity. How do you capture this? Are you just cranking the shutter speed and adjusting for that? Or how do you?
Well, I've kind of, I set the buttons on my camera in a way that works for me. Okay. I recommend
sponsored by Canon.
Yeah. Well, I have a button on the back of my camera that's eye autofocus, and then my regular shutter is just like it's like a general center focus. Okay. So obviously the settings for sports, and then but that eye autofocus, if I do get a clean look at somebody, I'll press that and then it'll change the focus mode and
pop to their eye.
Yeah, and you can get some like clean, really crisp shots doing that. So some little hints and tricks like that. Okay. And just shooting a lot. Like go to 8 basketball games in a row. Yeah. You're bound to get a couple.
And then I suppose you figure out what works best. Because that's what I was going to say, shooting events, and then you figure out a way to do that. How do you change your photographic style and approach when then, okay, now I'm going to go shoot a family, or I'm going to go shoot a senior, whatever it is?
Yeah. With football, this fall was the first time I started kind of editing football differently. And then I did a few family sessions. I was like, well, the linebacker looks a lot better with that type of editing than this family does. So, and I kind of always have liked my photos to be a little bit brighter, and I like color, and but definitely a little bit softer with portraits and people. And
so we're going to dive into your editing style and maybe how you find that a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to hear from this week's sponsor, Midco. Is your business moving up and to the right? Put Midco's business technology to work for you so you never have a slow day at the office. From premium internet and phone plans to custom private networking and advertising, they have a solution for every type of business, large or small. Get paired with an account representative to create your suite of services and make the switch with ease with dedicated business client fulfillment and support teams. No data caps, flexible contracts with month-to-month or long-term options, built-in DDoS protection, and more. Explore services and request a free consultation at midco.com/business today. I've been a Midco user ever since I started my business. I love it. I say it every week. If you guys haven't yet checked out midco.com/business, go give it a look. Check out the services they have, and you can request a free consultation there as well. All right, Mason, let's get back into the questions. So we talked a little bit about your editing before the ad read. How did you find your style of photography? Not specifically the shooting side, but the editing side. Did you just go through a lot of different editing styles and keep practicing, or what did that look like to find your style?
Yeah, I think just looking at a bunch of other people's work and kind of figuring out what I liked about their work and what I didn't like in some work, and then looking at my old work and seeing what I didn't like.
Okay. Looking back at old work is one of the, I hate doing it.
Mostly, I would say I don't think I liked any of them, so I changed. So, but I found out pretty quick, like bright. I like, bright images and some vibrance, and so, and I think I also thought early on that I was like, I have to figure out my style, and then I'll like that, and that's what I'll do. Yeah, but like I just keep changing. So I mean, and it's small. Ever-changing. Yeah, it's ever changing. It's like small tweaks here and there, and so I don't think there is like a end of, this is what I am, or
this is
how
me.
I do it. Yeah,
because I talk to a lot of photographers, and they say, I wish my pictures looked like this person's. I wish it looked like this. How do you get over that hurdle of comparing yourself to other photographers and realizing that your own way, is just as good as the way that you wish you strive, or you wish you strive to be like that other person?
Yeah, I think just, continuing to work on your stuff, and, finding that one shot or whatever from the shoot that you really think like, I nailed that one. That one worked, know, and
I know what I did there, but I got to do that again.
Yeah. So I think just knowing that it's a ongoing process, and that, you're going to get better, and sometimes you have really good days. So,
yeah. And what I like to tell people is, specifically if you're looking at an Instagram, you look at someone's Instagram, it's like, their Instagram looks awesome. I love the way they shoot. You're never going to like your own Instagram as much as you're going to like someone that you admire. That's personally how I feel. I don't know about you, but
definitely I will go on somebody's, some guy who's shooting pro sports or college, and, I'm like, that looks so good. Their whole, and even like Oscar is one of those where he's kind of like really consistent in the way he puts content out there, and it looks really nice, and his editing looks awesome. And
that's almost an art on the side to keep everything consistent.
Yeah. So
you can do photo, but then when you mush it all together, that your last year looks cohesive.
Yeah.
That's what I really appreciate.
Yeah.
If you had to give some advice for maybe a student that's just getting into the photo world, or maybe even an adult that's trying to switch careers into the photo world, what would be some advice you'd give them on starting out?
I would say if you like really want to dive into it, just be ready to work hard at it, and that it's going to take a lot of time and effort and money, and
money for sure.
So if you're going to dive in, cannonball or whatever you want to. Don't dip your toe. So, and shoot as much as you can.
That's the one thing I learned is when I was starting video stuff, is shoot as much as humanly possible. I was pretty much a yes man, and just like, I'm going to shoot everything. If they want me to shoot this fashion show, awesome. If you want me to shoot a corporate video with a dentist, awesome. Because I feel like you learn so much when you're shooting different things.
Yeah, you pick up all sorts of different stuff when there's different scenarios and lighting, and yeah, that's how I still pretty much am like that right now. And I'd like to get a little bit less like that, where I'm not just shooting everything, but right now I'm shooting like, everything from sports, weddings, family.
Yeah. We're going to talk about your goals and ambitions at the end of the show, so make sure you guys stick around for that. But you mentioned money. Do you have any cost-effective advice for people starting out? Like, what did you start out with? Is it good enough in the beginning, or what would you suggest as far as, because it is an expensive industry to get into, and maybe they have a limited budget?
Yeah, I would say, we've mentioned it a time or two here, but the glass is important. If you're going to decide on a body or glass, get the 70 to 200 if you want to go shoot hockey and basketball or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of good cameras that are, you don't have to jump into an R3 or an R5. You can, an R8 right now is like an awesome camera that is a fourth of the price or whatever of an R5. So do your research, YouTube it. Like, there's so many videos on every camera so
that's one thing I do when I buy a piece of camera equipment. I will watch every single video, read every single article online about this, and be like, okay, now I can make an educated decision whether I want to buy this or not.
Yeah.
Are there any specific pieces of equipment that you would suggest that make your life easier? This is maybe more so video side. I could recommend some things, but is there anything photo side that's like, man, I wish I had this when I started?
Yeah. I was editing on a laptop that just couldn't handle R5 files.
Yeah.
And I got an iPad that just like so fast, and editing on there is awesome.
Okay.
So my process.
You edit everything on the iPad then?
Yeah. I mean, nice. it honestly sped it up by
Apple Pencil or no?
Hours and hours. Yeah. So it's just super easy and quick, and it's sped up like probably 10 times, I would say, is when I sped it up. So, and I think the one thing that I'm still trying to figure out is, and I didn't think about this until I got that iPad, is the color on that screen is different than any other screen that I've seen my work on. So I'm like trying to figure out settings for screens, and I don't know, maybe we could talk about that a little later off.
We'll come back. We'll have you on for episode 100. You can do 50 and then 100. And we'll talk about, hey, did you figure out that iPad screen yet? That's one thing I've ran into actually, is editing videos. I'll edit it on my computer, and then it looks good there. The color grade looks good. And then a client will post it on Facebook. I'll look at it on my phone, and I'm like, the hell does it look so dark for? Why do the highlights look so blown out? And I don't know if that's just compression from these social platforms, but yeah,
even just transferring photos like onto a computer screen or my phone screen, I see differences. And I never thought, I knew like printers, if you print something, it might look different, but I never thought it would be that different from screen to screen.
So do you then just import it onto a computer and then it syncs Lightroom to your iPad, or what does that process look like?
I actually just have like the Canon app on my iPad and hook up the camera through that. Like Bluetooth, and just go through that. And I have an external hard drive that can plug into the iPad. And
really? I didn't even know they made hard drives like that.
Yeah. So I don't know.
You've really streamlined this. This is the first time I'm talking to an iPad editor here.
Yeah. The iPad is, and I think I saw a YouTube video that they were like using Premiere Pro or something on it.
Yeah.
And I was at the point where I was like, photos were going so slow on my computer. So I'm just going to get one of those and see. Yeah. And it's been awesome.
Yeah. And that's one thing people might neglect if they're in the creative side. So if you're going into the creative side, don't neglect this, is that your computer almost matters just as much as the stuff you're shooting on. I was trying to edit 4K videos on my old laptop, and it was like one of the worst experiences ever. You buy a new Mac Studio, and it is like butter. So once you experience, I'm sure you experience this with the iPad. Once you experience the better workflow, it is just smooth. It makes your life so much easier.
Yeah, way better.
So time management, you obviously have teaching career, photography career. They're obviously intermingled a little bit, but do you have any productivity hacks to make things more efficient, to make processes more efficient? I know you talked about the iPad, but is there anything else that you use to streamline things?
I mean, the website that I put my stuff out on, and
What website platform do you use? Because I see a lot of photographers, you can like sell your stuff on there, right?
Yeah, I'm on Wix right now. And I actually
okay.
think, I just talked to Oscar the other day. I think I'm going to switch off there. I got a message from them the other day that was like something about they're no longer a limited storage. So I'm going to have to pay like $34 a month for anything over 100 gigs or something. And I'm like, I looked, I'm like, I have 450 gigs on here. So
it's not good.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to get off there.
What is he using? WordPress? Or is that another thing?
Pixie Set.
Okay. Yeah. Pixie Set. That's one too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he's on. And I think I'm going to have him help me out with that and try to transfer over.
Is it kind of cool that your former student can now help you out with your business?
Yeah. And Oscar actually, this is what's crazy about Oscar. He didn't even take the photo classes. He wanted to jump to photo 2 and they wouldn't let him skip photo 1. And he's shooting an R5 with I'm pretty sure he can skip the photo 1, but
he's in there and he's like, this is what the aperture means.
Yeah. You want to teach the class today, Oscar?
Yeah. He's like, guys, I could teach photo 2. It's fine. So going then into the class a little bit, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see from beginners? How can they, maybe shorten that learning curve?
I would say, this might be like too simple of a thing, but white balance is like,
it's huge.
Number one on when I'm walking around the room and see all the computers.
Everything's yellow.
Yeah. I'm like, everything's different, you know, like, so white balance, and the kids who start figuring white balance out, their work automatically like looks awesome when we do like critiques and stuff. So
that's one of the big things in video, which they're pretty much the same thing that I used auto white balance for the longest time. And I'd be filming a gimbal shot, walking through a room, and it goes from 5600, now it's 3200, and everything's warm, and then it's back to cool. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And white balance can change an image so much.
Yeah.
Because if you can make it look like, your black pullover is actually black and this white poster is actually white, it just feels more natural to the eye.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's, one thing. If you're getting into photo, make sure you figure out that white balance. Stop using auto white balance. Is there any tips you have related to, lighting, composition, as far as that goes?
Yeah. I mean, when I teach the photo 1 class, that whole class is basically based on composition. I call it just compositional techniques.
Okay.
Things like framing, rule of thirds, leading lines.
What's the spiral one?
That's like the golden.
Rule. Oh, yeah.
We don't get too deep into that, but
I don't even use that.
Yeah. It's kind of similar to rule of thirds in some ways. But we do all these like compositional technique projects and that stuff is important. But I think my favorite work is when people just have like a really good eye for what they're seeing and something interesting.
And you have to learn the basics, because I have a lot of people ask me about video stuff. How do I shoot this? How do you frame this? You have just learn the basics, and then that's when you can start to bend and break those rules. I know in interviews, you're supposed to have the looking room, wherever the person's looking, more space to that side of the frame. But then I'm sitting there watching 9/11 documentaries, and their face is right next to the edge of the frame, and I'm like, oh, that's giving me a weird, uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know that until you start to actually break these rules, but you got to know the rules first.
Yeah, definitely. When you know the rules, then you can, that creative freedom to break them is.
And I'm sure you've had that in some sporting events where you're just a bunch of empty space above, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what are some goals, ambitions you have for the photography business? Are you trying to take it one way or the other?
I don't know. I can't decide right now if I want to continue teaching or if I want to go try to do more photo stuff. I don't know if I can deal with the stress of just having it all be on me. Like I would like to have a job shooting for a professional sports team would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause
really
I think
cool.
we were talking about, must've been a couple weeks ago, Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or some lady I knew that worked for the Chiefs. And then we were going to figure out a way to get that. Cause is that kind of the end goal, is to work for a professional sports team, or would be cool?
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that would be a goal of mine, but it wouldn't break my spirits if I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot the JV basketball game too. I like that too. So
yeah, it's cool that I like where you're going about not having the stress of, okay, I got to find a job every week to pay the bills, whatever it might be, and being able to shoot photo full time for something and also have that recurring paycheck.
Yeah. And I do like teaching, and I really like teaching photo.
Yeah.
So
As long as you can keep teaching photo. If they push you over to ceramics, you might just go like, I'm working for the Twins now,
I can't do ceramics, yeah.
So is there, if you had to say your dream shoot, whether it's an event or it's a person, whatever the subject is, what would be your dream project? Like, I got to shoot Patrick Mahomes or I got to shoot Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
What would it be? Do you have anything in mind?
I think an NFL game, like,
Okay.
like I said, football wasn't my favorite, but it's my favorite sport.
Yeah.
So just being in that atmosphere, I think would be cool. And shooting an NFL game would be like a peak moment for me.
Do you have a specific team or matchup that you'd want to see?
I like the Steelers. That's my favorite team.
Okay.
I don't know if I would even care if it was the Steelers or any team.
So if you had to pinpoint the shot that you would want, would it be a wide receiver touchdown? Would it be a hurdle of a running back? What do you think it would be?
Yeah, maybe something like down the goal line, like a running back, like jumping over the pile type thing.
Oh, that'd be sweet, actually.
Yeah.
Sticking his hand over.
Like a touchdown. Like
Kirk Cousins.
You got the shot. Yeah.
We could get Kirk Cousins for a QB sneak.
Yeah.
Any genres of photography that you're interested in getting into? Underwater photography. I
don't know. I think it's interesting you say that because I haven't shot film since that traditional photo class I took. I just ordered 5 rolls of film.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring that camera back out, and I'd like to shoot more just kind of like artistic portraits and edit them in almost a crappy way.
Okay.
Just something that, I wouldn't say a crappy way, I guess, just like, I don't know, something that isn't like that, just color,
digital,
contrast,
clean cut,
digital. Yeah. Something that doesn't look great on the Instagram feed or whatever.
Do you ever print off like a full size picture like this or no?
Yeah. So, I printed the student art show was a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I had 100 roll foot of paper on a printer we have. And it's an old printer, but it does an okay job. And I just like made 100 feet of Photoshop. Like,
oh yeah.
It wasn't all in one Photoshop document. It really crashed my computer, but I was like doing the math of all the students' work, and I just like put a photo in here and there. Cause I got a kind of a wall in my room too of like tons of photos, and
okay,
it's cool to see it printed.
Yeah.
And
that's what I like about, obviously you can't get video like on the wall, but
yeah,
if you have a sweet shot, whether it's a sporting event or maybe you got a sweet shot of a mountain or whatever it might be, it's cool to see it on the wall.
Yeah. It's awesome to, see it being printed. And
mm-hmm. It's like a giant mural, 100 feet. So did you guys print that then?
Yeah, we printed all 100 feet of the paper. We ran out actually. So
where did you guys put it, or did they take it home?
So we just like mat them all, and then the kids, they display them at the art show. And some people, like some kids, sold a bunch of work, and
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's cool.
Making money in high school.
Yeah.
Last question I got for you: Mount Rushmore of business advice. What would you tell the people that are getting into it? They're trying to run their own thing. Maybe they're just getting started. What would you say to them? 4 pieces of advice.
I would say number 1 would be to just work hard like that. Hard work can take you a long ways even if you're unsure. Hard work.
Okay. There's 1.
I would say when you're working with like a client, just to be kind of try to make their experience not above and beyond, but like just be nice and flexible with them, and just be kind to your clients. I would say finding something that you're really passionate about, not just, like I liked ceramics and painting, but I didn't ever want to do that. Like I want to do photo. So, something that you enjoy the process as much as the product, because if you enjoy the process, it's just makes your life way better. So
I like that. There's 3. I need 1 more.
One more. Let's see.
Enjoy the process more as much as the product. Put that on a t-shirt, man.
Yeah. Let's see. Last one would be maybe, man, I don't know.
Any technical advice that you wish you knew?
That's kind of what
figure out your taxes.
That's kind of what I was thinking is, I have friends who do taxes. I would say, get stuff going early on, like a website and your social media and stuff out there, and just be available for people to see your work if you're going to do, especially if you're doing something creative.
I think that's what it boils down to, is people seeing it, because I'm sure word of mouth is the biggest thing for you.
Yeah,
and social media.
Yeah, the word of mouth at school and social media is like that. The school helps me a ton, being around all the sports and seniors and
Cool. All right, Mason, thank you very much for coming on the show. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Facebook, sort of Twitter. Falling behind on Twitter, but Mason Kramer Photography.com is, might be switching soon,
for now.
Yeah.
If just check the description below. When he switches it, we'll switch the link. But you guys can find all of that in the description below. Go check out what Mason does, and maybe come have him take some pictures of you. Mason, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That is episode 50 of the Minot Business Podcast. The whole 50 episodes, guys. We appreciate, guys and gals, we appreciate you listening to all 50 episodes. Here's to 50 more, and we will see you guys next week for episode 51.